Welcome to my world, Disturbed Noise, a place to be inspired, get encouragement, and gain wisdom in order to live a better life. I'm your host, Amir Alexander. Let's get into it. I'm super excited. This is the first episode having a guest actually in studio.
On the first one?
Man,
Hey,
you are the first guest, and this is my really good friend, business partner, Hunter. How are you doing today?
Dude, I'm doing great, man. Excited. A lot of stuff's going on, staying busy, but it's been good, man.
Bro, I'm super excited to have you on. I think we met about a year ago, and that story.
It feels so much longer though.
Honestly, I feel like I've known you for like 4 years. Honestly, God. Like it doesn't,
for sure.
And it doesn't feel like that. And that's how you know those kind of relationships like last.
Oh yeah.
Right when you're like, bro,
100%.
I just felt like I met you, but it felt like we've been.
Oh yeah.
And it's like your journey is cool in the way, and I'm just going to get right into it, right? Because like when we first met, it was through a friend, and he knew what I was doing. We were kind of like filling each other out, and then
didn't we say how like we didn't even really like each other at first?
Yeah.
Like
it was just like an understanding. I was like, oh man, this guy's kind of cocky, and it was like,
and I thought he like. Oh no, you want to get into it?
No, you can get into it.
Okay, so like the way we met was through like a mutual friend, and even the way we both met that person was crazy.
Oh yeah.
And so I don't know if we're trying to like tell the whole story.
Yeah, no, go for it.
But like, so essentially, like I met this friend through like Twitter, basically. So I was really into esports and really into like the whole gaming scene and stuff.
Yeah.
And so I was looking for any kind of connection I could get. So I was like just DMing a whole bunch of organizations on Twitter. And I randomly one account responded to me. We start talking. He goes, "Oh hey, I noticed you're from Charlotte." And I was like, "Oh no, I'm from Charlotte too." Like he says, "Oh, do you want to meet up?" And so of course, like my stranger danger alarm was going off and stuff. But I'm like, you know what? Let's do it anyway. And so we end up meeting. He's a great guy. We started becoming friends. And then 2 years later, he like randomly invites me to hang out at his apartment. And that's where I met you.
That was the day. And so how I ended up meeting the friend that we're talking about now. Shout out to you, Austin. Much love.
Yeah, Austin. Let's go, bro.
So I just moved to Charlotte, and he came to my house to do the cable, and because he works with the cable and everything. And at first I was not going to go downstairs. I was like, I see this young guy. I'm like, bro, like I know no one here. Like I might as well like get some type of interaction. Right. I was lonely at that point. We've been living here for about a month. Yeah. And so I went down there, and I'm like, hey man, like we kind of talked, and he was like, let's hang out sometime. And I was like, hey, and you know how Austin is. He's just like that nice guy.
He's a great guy, man.
Bro.
Like he's really good at like making people like we all have that friend who like makes you feel super, super comfortable. Like Austin's one of those guys that like just connects people, man.
Yeah. And so
it's insane.
And so we end up hanging out like 2 days later after he gave me my number. He was like, man, like let's hang out, and drove me around the city, drove me to the mall and everything.
That's crazy, bro. Honestly.
And then like a couple of days later, I remember because it was right around your birthday.
Yeah.
He was like, man, let's hang out. The guy Hunter I'm talking about is gonna be there, and I'm like, oh wait, people? Like I want to meet people. Yeah. And so we end up linking up there, and then I met you, and it was from there. It was just like, bro, like we started going to church together, and it was just like this long.
But it wasn't like. It's not like we met at church though, because there's a thing where so we both go to the apartment, and so like I see him for the first time. So you guys see clean cut Amir. Like I met Amir, bro. You had it was the dreads, and you had like the whole thing. And like I remember like we first started talking, and it was like just kind of casual chit chat, whatever. He's like, oh hey, it's Amir, cool, whatever. And then like I think you were talking about being a vegan or something like that, bro. And I was like, dude, if this is a like some man, hippie. No, for real. I was like, oh, this is some hippie photographer guy, bro. Like we're gonna be talking about like organic juicing next. Like it's gonna be a whole thing.
I even forgot I was vegan at that point, man.
Bro, you were vegan,
and I remember
but like you looked vegan though.
With the bro, because I remember because you had so many questions, like, bro, like, so you don't eat meat at all? I'm like, no.
Well, he said something like you were saying how you've been a vegan for like 8 years.
Oh, bro, no. So at that point,
it was like a lifestyle.
It was like 4 years deep. I was 4 years deep, going on 5 years, bro.
Dude, that was mind blowing.
And so I'm kind of glad that chapter is over, and the whole dread thing. I mean,
respect to you though. I can't do that though.
Yeah, no, but so like what it ended up happening is we met. We were like, okay, cool. Like we exchanged numbers, and then like we found out what each other did. Yeah. Like, I'm video, photo, your marketing, and all that kind of stuff. And then from there, we're just kind of like. We went to church. Like that's the only time we would hang out ever. It was like
literally,
it's just church. I'm like, oh yeah, that's just like a church friend.
But even then, like we were both going solo though.
Yeah.
Because for me, it was like I recently got done going to my old church and stuff like that, and I felt like it was a new time for me to be able to make a transition.
Definitely.
But my friend told me about Elevation, and like I started going to the Matthews campus. But for me, like, I'm sure a lot of you guys would be the same way. Like, you want to see your pastor. You want to feel like you're in the environment.
It's different, especially at Elevation.
And so I was like, man, I have no friends over there, but like, I just feel like that's where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah.
And so I literally would just go by myself for probably like 4 months or something like that. And then you were saying how like when you moved here, you were doing the same thing.
Yeah. So, just like me and my sister just going. And, and then it was funny because we were like, yeah, you know, we go to Elevation because he's like, Elevation? I'm like, yeah, I go too. I'm like, okay. I'm like, when do you go? I go first service. I'm like, well, you sometimes go first. And it was it was just like this weird, like, oh, these puzzles are starting to fit together.
Oh, 100%.
And then I feel like probably like 3 months into that, we like something clicked. It was like, oh no, like, we're, because you got to think about that. We met, and like 4 months later, we're like, oh yeah, like let's go to Miami together. Yeah, isn't that kind of weird? Like how'd that happen?
Well, that was weird too, because I remember like the way it came up. We originally were talking about Los Angeles.
Yes.
Which, like, I mean, obviously, we're still trying to go to Los Angeles.
That's a vibe. That's a vibe.
So if you guys want to buy us tickets, you know.
Right.
But anyway, like, we were planning, like, this big group trip for LA. It was, like, 5 people. Basically, if you guys plan out different trips, like 70% of the group bailed.
Bro, yeah.
And it was a thing where, like, we were both like, man, we've been working hard. Like, we want to do something. We want to experience somewhere, like, new. But we don't want to drop, like, a ton of money on it. But, like, we still want to go somewhere nice. And so, like, Miami came up, and we, like I said, we only knew each other for like 3 months.
Yeah, it was nothing. It was nothing at that point.
But bro, I was totally comfortable though.
Oh, you know, me too.
I had this like, almost like, kind of weird next level trust.
Sense of confidence. Yeah, like, oh no, it's cool.
Yeah, we'll be fine.
And then, bro, like, if you know us personally, we're not like that at. Bro, like...
No, I would say I have borderline trust issues.
Yeah, no, honestly, like, closed off to the 10th degree. And so, like, we end up going, having a great time, and then it just kind of progressed from there. Like, it's like, oh, no, that's my brother. Like you know what I'm saying? Like, that's my guy. And
for sure.
I again, like, I love relationships like that. When you meet somebody, you're like, oh, like, yo, we're cool. And then it kind of just forms into this thing that you weren't even expecting. Because, I mean, when we first met that, we were like, oh, yeah, like, this is just somebody
we were cool. Like, we didn't like...
Oh, yeah, no, it was no, like, it was no weird energy, but it was like, oh, yeah, this is somebody I met. Like, you know what I'm saying? It wasn't 100%. Like, oh, like, that's my friend. Like, you know what I mean? Sure. And then, like, now it's like business together, which, I mean, like, let's get into that. I mean, we just launched our first business together, Exalt Media. We have a course called Church Online, which I'm super excited. How do you feel about the launch?
I mean, like, I'm excited, like, not only for the individual product, but I feel like the business as a whole.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because, like, our main goal is, like, I'm not sure if we're mentioning the church specifically.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Yeah, no, we're working with a church called The Refinery, and, like... And it was kind of a weird thing where, like, my parents ended up going. And the whole thing, like, what I also love about the business, though, is, like, it happened so naturally. It was a thing where, like, bro, like, nothing was forced. And I feel like that's where, like, the confirmation from God comes in. That's where you feel like you're just, like, in a good flow of, like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
For sure.
So, like, he hit me up, like, I think it was me and the pastor, and, like, he took me out to lunch, and we were talking. And he was like, hey, I know you do social media. Like, could you help me out with the church? And then it was something where, like, okay, I felt like I had a part of the piece, and I used to do content a little bit, but I was like, okay, let me bring in Amir, and so we start scheming up, and we come up with this whole idea, and then we start to see, like, okay, as we're doing this for them, it was like, dude, everybody needs this.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, apart from, like, the elevations and, like, the top, top dogs or whatever, but, like, the average church, like, doesn't know a lot about social media.
Oh, no, not at all.
And so it was the thing where, like, I felt, like, almost obligated to be like, listen, like, this is a great opportunity. You know what I mean? To not only, like, be able to expand our business, but also to, like, help millions of churches and millions of people to, like, get to know God.
And I mean, like you said, it was so organic. And I think that's the thing. Like, I mean, many things that we end up doing even individually are really organic, but that specifically because you met with him, you talked to him, and then we, like, started to talk. I'm like, man, that seemed like a good business idea. I mean, like, plus the added on benefit that, you know, we're doing it for God and all that kind of stuff. And that's you hit me up when we talked about it, and it just like clicked. It was like, yo, wait, churches need this, all this kind of stuff. And then we seen like our kind of authority start to come through in our space. Right. Like, okay, you've been doing what you've been doing for like 4 years. I've been doing it like for 4 or 5 years. And it's like, oh, so we know what we're doing, and it's also a need in the market. Well, and so,
and that's like the recipe for success.
That's the recipe for success.
It was just like potential meets opportunity. It's like that's where like we know we're supposed to be in the right spot.
And so I mean, there were days you're over my house, over your house, and we had like 3 hours of just like, you know, spitting ideas. Well, if there was like a camera on the wall, just seeing how in depth we talked about because we're the same in that way, where it's like we'll overthink.
Bro, it took us like It took us like 3 hours to come up with a name,
bro.
And we didn't even feel like great about the name.
Oh no,
it was like, okay, like we like it, but like, is that what we're supposed to do?
Yeah.
But then like as things progress, like Exalt Media, I'm like,
it's perfect. Yeah.
No, I think it's like exactly
like it rolls off the tongue perfect and everything. It fits exactly who we are.
Oh, for sure.
And then like so we started that, and now we have this course that we launched, which I'm excited about. Which that kind of leads me into this train of thought of like your entrepreneur journey in general, like. How did it even start, right? I know the story, but let the people know.
Okay, so like as corny as it sounds, like it was kind of weird because I feel like I haven't been an entrepreneur for really that long, if I really think about it. Because like I think for me, like I kind of went throughout high school and like, you know how they kind of talk about, hey, going to college, what are you kind of up to?
Yeah.
And for me, it was like, it was a lot of pressure, number one. Because like I didn't really think about that as much. Because like at the time, guys, I was obsessed with skateboarding. I love skateboarding now, but like I was obsessed. And so back then it was like, a part of me was thinking like, can I make the professional skateboarding thing happen? Like, should I go to LA? Like, I had so many different, like, do I even want to go to college? You know?
Yeah.
And then, I don't know. It just kind of like, I started touring different colleges and things like that. And it was like, you know what? Like, I think I either wanted to be, I think it started I wanted to be a Christian counselor because I wanted to like help people and stuff like that. And like I had some.
What's up? I didn't know that.
Yeah, no, I really did. Mm-hmm. It's just something that I felt like I was being called to. Mm-hmm. And I think like I had when I was a kid, like I had a Christian pastor and a mentor help me.
Yeah. And
so I felt like I would love to do that for other people. Mm-hmm. But then I went to a university that specialized in that, and it was a lot of school, and like, it was it'd be like $90,000. And I'm like, like, do I want to do that? Uh-huh. And then like it was also a thing of like, do I really want to take on everyone's problems? And
yeah,
like,
that's a lot, man.
Oh, for sure, bro. And that really like that combination was kind of like, all right, I don't really want to do that.
Put that aside.
Yeah, and then I was touring another college, and I was like, dude, like, oh, what if I became like a lawyer?
Yeah.
Because like, you know how like when you tell people what you're doing, but you're like, you want to sound like impressive, you want to sound like you have your act together, but really you have no idea.
Yeah.
So I remember I was in a college class, and they were like going around the room saying, oh, like, you know, what are you guys here? What are you guys interested in? Mm-hmm. And like, I just randomly was like, all right, I want to be a lawyer.
Just some random thing.
That's right. I'm in law school. But like, no, it was a thing where like, I really was interested in it though. Like, I really, like, I'm passionate about justice. I'm really passionate about like making sure that like, you know, the wrongs, like the right things happen, everything like that. Mm. And so, I don't know, to kind of bring it back to like the entrepreneur thing was like, I knew I didn't want to go to college. I knew that like, I didn't really need it. Like I felt like there was like a higher calling, but I didn't know like what that looked like. Yeah. And so it's so stupid looking back on it, bro. But I think I literally typed in like how to get rich on YouTube.
Bro, that's like, how... That's,
no exaggeration. I literally was like, hey, how do I get rich? And I'm like, you know, like 18, about to be 19.
All these kids, hey, all you have to do is buy the $10,000 course.
Oh my gosh, dude. And then like,
opt in now.
Well, and then funny enough, like I ran to a guy, Ty Lopez.
The guy, the myth, the legend.
The legend. I mean, he is a legend.
Yeah, he is.
I got a lot of respect.
We gotta give him respect. Yeah.
Oh, for sure. And so I remember, I ran to Ty and started learning about that kind of stuff, and was like, his big thing at the time was like social media marketing. Mm. And so I was like, oh, like I gotta do this. You know what I mean? And so like.
Wait, so that was before you started to, I don't know if you're about to lead into, you know, doing Ecom and stuff like that. That was before that, huh?
Yeah, that was before that.
Oh, okay.
And so like I wanted to get involved with that, but I wasn't really sure like the pieces and stuff. And like there was obviously like, you know, the buy-in for the course, like a lot of money. I didn't have that. I was like 18, you know, and so I was just watching
$3K real quick.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I was just like, you know what? I'm gonna watch a ton of YouTube videos.
Bro, YouTube University is where I graduated from.
Bro, like I'm just now getting like Facebook certifications for stuff.
Yeah.
I've been in the game for like 5 years.
Been killing it. Like working with a whole bunch of companies.
No, and I've worked with like different agencies in New York and stuff, and they were like, oh, like you're one of our best ads guy. And I've never taken a single course about Facebook. Guys, I'm serious. Like, you can learn almost anything off of YouTube.
Let me tell you this.
Right? Like, we're in a new era right now, dude.
Just like, go ahead. If you've never even just looked at my Instagram, just looked at the photos I've took, all of the stuff that I know, self-taught 100%. My business acumen, all that kind of stuff. I mean, I think there is a piece of like, you know, my dad's an entrepreneur and all that kind of stuff. Same. But it's also you have to want to learn yourself too, right?
Oh yeah, nobody's gonna hand it to you.
School for me wasn't even an option before I left high school.
Really?
Like it wasn't even in the cards. Like I kind of like lied to my mom, sorry mom, but and like kind of toured a couple schools or whatever. They wanted me to come, but I was like, bro,
you were kind of acting like you were going to.
Yeah, but it's like I know I'm not, and my dad knew that already. Right. And then like it's kind of similar to your story. It's like, yeah, no, I know this is not for me. And then kind of like, and at the time, actually, before I was out of high school, I mean, it's not my interview, but before I was out of high school, I was already doing the thing. Right. So, I mean, you end up finding that later, and then you end up going to you know, doing the, you know, marketing and stuff like that. I'm curious to hear about your ecom story too, because that just kind of ties into the course as well. So
dude, and that's why like another thing I was so excited to get back into this, dude, because like that was like my roots. Because like for me, I learned like how to do Facebook ads and stuff like that, like through these different YouTube videos and stuff.
Yeah.
And the original intention was to help other businesses, but when I was 18, like I sucked at salesmanship.
Yeah.
Like I was terrified of picking up the phone. I was terrified of like going to meetings and meeting up with people I've never met before.
Yeah.
And so it was like, okay, how can I like? And I'm not even like a really like. But I think at the time maybe I was like a little bit shy and I just didn't, wasn't sure how comfortable I was.
I mean,
with that.
but like that's a new thing. Like,
oh, for sure.
You can learn anything on business and stuff on YouTube, but it's hard. I mean, especially starting a new skill like that, selling yourself it's a next.
And in the course, it didn't even talk about that. It was like, okay, like, here's why it's important. Here's some of the different tactics you should use and stuff like that. But they didn't teach you like the actual like salesmanship and the presentation and the branding and like all these different factors.
It's a lot.
And so it was like, okay, so I'm not getting anywhere with that, at least in the first wave. And it's like, okay, what else can I do? And then it was like, okay, e-commerce started to come into the picture. And that's where I was like, okay, I started messing around with that. I got into drop shipping. And I remember at the time, man, I was probably maybe like 19. And I was like, I think I was working as a lifeguard. And I remember, dude, like I just, I will say this. Out of all the jobs I've had, being a lifeguard, A1. Okay, so like that, like you got to chill. You're hanging out with pretty girls, like getting a tan, like the whole thing. But I remember at the time, like I was making like minimum wage or something like that, being a lifeguard, and I was working on the Ecom store, and like I had this light flick off my mind where like I set up the store, I set up my Facebook campaigns for the first time, I did like different like Instagram shout outs and stuff. And I'm like just kind of fingers crossed, maybe I'll make some money. And then like I remember I fell asleep or had the ads go live. I fell asleep. I woke up the next morning and like I think I said like I made like $400. And to me, like, people hear like $400.
That's a lot. You're talking about like 19 years, just starting to get into it. That was like, oh no, I made the bag.
Oh no, for sure. I mean, because for real, like for me, like that's like, like doing the math on minimum wage. I'm like, that's like 2 weeks worth of work. That I made like in a night. And it's like, for me, it was like, that was the moment where I'm like, I've got to do this. Like, I've got to figure this out. I've got to like, whether it's drop shipping or like whatever.
It has to happen.
I got to get one, savvy with Instagram, get savvy with Facebook, social media, the whole thing. And then 2, it's like I gotta start learning advertising. I gotta start learning how to actually traffic, like bring in different traffic from different places.
Bro, just to not to cut you off, if you're just listening to him right now, he's actually dropping a lot of gems, especially from the beginning, because like a lot of people are curious on like, I know people have asked you, people have asked me, so how did you start, bro? It really is like, and what it sounds to me is application. You learn something because you took the skill of that.
I wasted so much money.
Okay, then the opportunity of, okay, wait, now I can do drop shipping and that whole thing, but now I can take my knowledge that I did with learning all that stuff to do with that. Bro, that's like, it's simple to us, but even some people are like, I didn't even think. Wait, that could lead you to that, and it's like it's a weird thing to balance. But like you were able to get those, you know, what you learned there in order to progress yourself.
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, I think a lot of it starts with like a natural curiosity.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Because it was more of like I kind of knew like the general destination of like this is kind of how I want my life to look like. Yeah. I don't want to do a 9 to 5. I want to be able to set my own hours. I want to be able to control how much money I'm making and like, or at least I try to. You know what I mean? Like, if for me, like I'm pretty comfortable, and I think it's like another thing, bro. And this is more of like a general kind of life thing. Is like you got to know yourself and what you want. You know what I mean? And so I think for me, it was like I knew that like I didn't want to go to college. I wasn't really that interested in like getting a job really. And so I was like, okay, so if you don't want that, then like what's the alternative? What does that look like? And then how do you get there? You know what I mean? And so I think for me, it took a while to like refine that process. But I feel like now I'm finally like in a nice groove where like the progression is becoming very clear.
Yeah, so I know you've told me the story like with the ecom, like how did that end? Like, cause obviously you're not doing that like currently with the ecom, but like how did that story end?
So I mean, it's kind of crazy. So like, if you're not familiar with like the model of drop shipping, essentially it's like you're essentially like the middleman in a lot of situations. So it's essentially your job to set up the store. You run different ads. You have like maybe like different Instagram pages. You have like Facebook ads or Google or whatever you're good at, and then you drive that traffic. And you essentially sell somebody else's product, traditionally in China. That's where a lot of these manufacturers are from. And then they ship it off, and then you're good. The problem for me was just dealing with the Chinese and the manufacturing and the shipping time. Like, these shipping times were atrocious.
Yeah.
Like
it was about 3 weeks.
Yeah. No, literally 3 weeks. And I'm like, so I would get like emails being like, where's my product? And I'm like, I don't really know.
Somewhere in limbo, maybe on a ship somewhere.
Yeah. And then like I try to like, I message them and they're answering me in Chinese and like, and I'm like, dude, I don't know what to do about this. And so for me, it was like the opportunity's there and the margins are great, but like, especially nowadays, man, like it's really tough to deal with those manufacturing plants. And they can cut you out at any time.
This is just a gem.
Yeah, they don't owe you
we're not. I'm not discouraging anyone from starting a drop shipping.
Oh no, and people are making tons of like. Make no mistake, people are making a lot of money.
People are making tons of money. Yeah, but where the money is coming now is the branded stores, creating a brand, not just like I'm gonna put 20 different random items from China. It's like no, you're creating a brand around a certain thing.
You've got to.
If you want to be a hiking company, you actually have hiking stuff. You have the logo. It's a real brand. You're making content around that supports that. It's not just some I'm gonna have tents and like
I got this backpack and I'm gonna,
it's these random products. I mean, it's easy to fall into that because you start thinking about the margins. You're like, oh wait, I can make like
and the margins are nice. But here's the thing, because like not all these products were trash, but like a lot of them were very like cheaply made. And so you'll have like a backpack that like you can sell for $30 or maybe like $50, but it only costs you like $15 to make. And so like the margins are nice and stuff, but like the Chinese, the shipping times and customer service and like there's a lot of like things that really turn me off to it. But I needed like I would consider that my roots. And so I feel like nowadays it's kind of gearing me back to like that, especially when you get an Ecom too. It's like when you get that first sale, everyone remembers the exact moment, dude. Like it was crazy. It's like I'll always remember.
It's like getting your first client. Like it's like on the same level. I understand that. It's like I mean, how were you when you got your first client? Like your first real client that you're like, like wait, I can make this a whole full time.
Oh no, for sure. Like I think like my first client was oh my god. Well, this is a story. I started shout out to Darian if you're watching this, by the way.
Oh yeah.
We started a company called American Marketing Agency, and it was the time where like we wanted to get back into the social media marketing game for other companies. And like, so I think so the short answer would be our first client was like this local barbecue restaurant, and it was like a terrible contract and like it was the whole thing. But like, we did make some money, but it was a great learning experience. But I remember like our goal though, like we went uptown and we're like, all right, who's got the money? Like who can we sell to? Like who we enjoy working with? And so we started approaching like luxury condo after luxury condo after luxury apartment building, and we actually got a lot farther than I would have expected. Yeah, for sure. But like at the same time, it was like one of those things where I just hit a wall as far as like I wasn't as experienced as I thought I was, and it was one of those things where like looking back on it, I was proud that like I actually did something and I tried, but it came to a point where it's like, okay, I've actually got to be good at this. Yeah. Like I actually have to
can't just be all talk.
Yeah, because like at the time, like I had an idea of like, okay, I know they're supposed to be doing this. I know this is the right time, but I'm not the right guy to do this.
Right, yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's such a weird place to be in.
And so I was trying to convince them that I was, and they were kind of buying it at first, but then like as they asked me more questions, it was like, okay, this guy doesn't actually know how to do this. But nowadays, I laugh about it too, because it's like I got like way farther through and maybe that's a life lesson in general. It's
I was just about to
just like that confidence of like you don't have to have all the answers, but if you just step into it, man, like you'll be shocked like how far you really would get.
And that's that's like the biggest takeaway I can say that is like kind of how we going about like Exalt, like we did the thing, right? So it's like yes, and now it's time to do the ads and do other things because I mean we're experienced at this point, but we did something, we accomplished it, and we saw it through, and that's where a lot of people fell is in the middle. It's like you didn't even you're at the starting. And you didn't even get your first client. You didn't do anything. You didn't really do anything to warrant to say you're a failure yet. You didn't do anything, and so
oh my gosh. Well, and a lot of people like it's even worse too, because like I found myself stuck in this place as well. Yeah, where like you're using the mental energy thinking about the business, thinking about different results, thinking about your process, whatever, but you're not actually like doing it. Yeah. So you're getting like you're essentially taking on all the stress.
So you're creating a false reality in yourself because
it's terrible. Like, you're essentially taking on all the stress without any of the actual reward. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so like it just becomes like this vicious cycle of just like doubting yourself and not really believing that this can work, and then like so you don't do anything, and because you're not doing anything, you believe that you aren't good at this, and then like it just starts this whole like cycle. So you've got to just do it, man.
Yeah, and like, but that's like high level thinking there, like knowing that you're the stress that, Because like you're creating that false reality that you did something but you didn't, and that's why people talk a lot about tasks that actually propel you forward and not like answering emails and like but actually learning something. You know, like all those little things that it feels like work but it's not actually work.
Oh, for sure.
And so that's the same thing with like success in that way. It's like you feel like you should be seeing success, but it's like you're not really actually doing nothing that would yield success.
Well, for sure. And there's definitely, and I'm even learning this now, it's like there's a difference between being busy and being productive.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Because like I think, and that's the thing too, because like especially as like entrepreneurs, you want to feel like you're doing something
all the time.
You want to feel like you're making progress. You want to feel like you're actually like doing something.
I work 24 hours a day.
Yeah, it's like I don't sleep. Like, you know, and people are like that, you know, a bunch of psychos. But like for me, it's like I would rather have a day where like I work for 2 or 3 hours, but like that was a great 2 or 3 hours. I did exactly what I was supposed to be doing that day, and then move on to the next day. Then like, okay, at 11:30, I'm gonna read this book, and then at 2, I'm gonna do like this random thing, and then I'm gonna watch this interview, and then I'm gonna do this. And it's like, okay, like you're just like filling random things in your schedule to make it feel like you're doing something. But then, like, if you actually look at the progression of your businesses, you're not actually doing anything.
Right, and then at the end of the day, you find out, I didn't really do anything. This was a waste of time. I mean, I've had that in, like, the beginning of my journey where it's like, all right, I'm going to take these notes. I'm going to do this. And then it's like 6 o'clock, and it's like, bro, wait, I didn't do anything. Right. Like, I was supposed to be working on business. I was supposed to be editing. I was supposed to be, like, creating new systems to attract clients. But, like, no, this whole time I was just like crapping around and not really focusing on those things that like propel you forward. Yeah. But I mean, it's hard. I mean, like you said, that's stuff you're learning now. Like even now, like what are like if you had to say like a challenge, that's something that you deal with now, like in your journey, like because I mean, like you said, we're still babies in this whole entrepreneur sense. For sure. So like, what is something that you're trying to break through now, like a mental wall or something you're trying to break through now?
I mean, I would just say honestly, like. And I think I'm kind of phasing out of it now. Yeah. But I think a lot of it was just like getting in my head so much that like I was not taking the action that I would have if I would have had the faith that it would have worked. You know what I mean? So it wasn't even like, I think with a lot of entrepreneurship, especially nowadays, I heard this analogy about how like, you know, back in like the 1950s or something like that, like you don't have the internet, you don't have the kind of access that we have to information nowadays. So back then it was a problem of like, okay, you could have the best mindset, you could have like this killer mentality of like, just go, but you don't have the resources to actually do anything. Yeah. Nowadays, it's actually like the opposite. So we have so much information in our hands. We have so much opportunity out there that only the people with the right mindsets are actually going to end up winning. Yeah. So for me, it's more of a thing of like, okay, I have all the resources that I need. And so basically to stop like reading books that I shouldn't be reading and like taking random advice from people. And a lot of things is like, okay, I have everything I need for this next step. Yeah. It really comes down just to like that belief that like this is the time that you can do it. Yeah. And you put your money where your mouth is, man. Like we're dropping money on these ads. Like we put took money to start it. It took money to like do everything, bro.
Even on this side of like, and like my faith, I'm like, yo, let's do it. But it's like even since I'm like, man, like it's a scary thing. I mean, like, and it's good to admit that. Like, when you're like, oh, man, this is territory we've never been in before. Right. Like, selling a product at this, at the price value, all that kind of stuff.
And we don't know if it's going to work.
Exactly. We're just kind of shooting it up in the air.
It's like, okay, I hope this works. Right. I think this is a good idea. Right. But you don't actually know.
You need that maybe faith, though. Like, you need, like, maybe this is a thing. I mean, like, if you never had that maybe faith in the beginning and, like, fell off when, like, your Ecom thing, you're like, oh, you know what, I can't do this. I'm just going to go back to school. You would have we wouldn't be talking right now. No. So it's like, it is those little things that if you can just push past it, it's like sometimes it seems like such a big wall, but if you can just break through it and just try your best to get through it, because I know we've had these conversations where it's like, man, I just feel stuck, or I feel like nothing's happening. Like I sent out 20 emails, bro.
Oh my gosh. No, and that gets to you, man.
Yeah, it does.
Like, it shakes you up, bro. Like, and I think some of it's healthy, and I feel like some of it's kind of not. Yeah. Because like it's really easy to like, at least for me, like I'm definitely my own like biggest hater and my own biggest like.
Me too.
I get in my way so much, man.
Yeah, me too.
And I always thought about that too. Is like the concept of like, I think I heard this phrase that was like, if you knew you could do anything and you wouldn't fail, what would you do?
Oh yeah, and that's,
you know what I mean.
But that's like, again, that's like putting your money where your mouth. It's like, wait, man, like if I'm not gonna fail, okay, I'm just gonna do it. Yeah. And if you fail, I mean, I feel like most of this audience too is around our age. Is like, bro, like we're young, and that's something I have to remember too. Like we were just talking downstairs before we came up here, and I'm like, man, like I feel like we're supposed to be all that kind of stuff, and it's like, bro, you're 21, I'm 22. Like he's 22, I'm 21, and it's like, bro, we're still young. We can. And something that Gary Vee says a lot is like, you can fail for the next 5 years and still be cool. Yeah. Like,
well, you're still young.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? I'm like, so like, like we literally just fail for the next 5 years. I'm like, bro, you're 26.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like a lot of people in the corporate world like would consider a 26-year-old like a baby.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like, I think the biggest thing that I'm trying to like work on now is like just shooting your shot. But I think like it comes from the core decision, and really this is more of like a life thing, honestly, about like identifying like who you are.
Identity.